Welcome to today's webinar, everyone, and the first in our week of webinars this week. Originally, we had planned on doing a CWAP, CWDP first look on Thursday combined together, but to make it so that we could give good coverage but not take up a lot of your time, we decided to break it into 2 days. So today, we'll be doing a CWAP-403 first look, and then on Thursday, we'll be doing a CWDP-303 first look. So we'll break them apart. It will be basically the same flow of information, but about the two different certifications. So today we're focused on CWAP, the new version, which will be launched on October the 1st as an exam, and learning materials will begin coming out in September. And I'll talk more about that later on. Of course, as most of you probably know, my name is Tom Carpenter. I'm the CTO at CWNP. And we are always available on Twitter at CWNP for the company, at Carpenter Tom for me. So feel free to hit us up on Twitter anytime you might have questions or comments or anything like that. And of course, I'm always available via email as well for questions. I'm easy to remember, Tom at CWNP.com. Now today, just so you know, we'll be going over the objectives of CWAP. And that objectives document has been uploaded to the website. It is available. So if you go to CWNP.com, Certification CWAP, you will see the objectives are there, but there's a note, a reminder the exam will not be available for scheduling until October the 1st. And I'll share more information about when the previous version of the exam will no longer be available as we go along as well. So first of all, remember Wi-Fi Trek is just around the corner. It's actually 61 days away now. I haven't got an updated screenshot here for today, but it is coming up very quick, just a couple of months away. You can go to conferences.cwnp.com in order to learn more and to register for the conference if you have not already, to attend in beautiful San Diego this October. It'll be a good time to be in San Diego instead of here in Ohio, where I'm from. So let's go ahead and look at the agenda. So we'll talk about the CWAP 403 development process. How did we get to where we are with the new version of the exam? We'll take a quick look at the paragraph job description that says, what is a wireless analysis professional? Then we'll go over the objectives, and then we'll talk about some timelines for when you can have expectations for the new certification exam, when the old one will retire, and things of that sort. So first of all, the development process. It all started back in March as far as the full-scale launch of the development process, when we had a group of subject matter experts, or SMEs, come together and do a JTA. But before that, we did our JTA subject matter expert selection. And we got an excellent pool together, and you'll see when we look at the objectives exactly who those individuals are. So we then performed the JTA, the job task analysis, in March. And that was done in Las Vegas over a period of 2.5 days for CWAP. At the same time, we did 2.5 days for CWDP. Now, the purpose of a job task analysis is to determine what someone in the role of a wireless analysis professional would do in their job, because we want to make sure that our test is actually evaluating or examining the individual on the ability to perform that job. So we define the job in the job task analysis. Out of that, we define objectives. So you can look at the objectives from two perspectives. They inform you of what you need to know in order to be prepared for the exam. And they also establish learning objectives. So what would you need to learn, obviously, is what you need to know. So the learning objectives, the test-based objectives, they're one and the same. So our learning materials are developed against the objectives. Now, the learning materials in some cases may go a bit beyond the objectives. So, for example, the courseware may cover some things that wouldn't show up on the exam, but it's useful information to know. The study guide, the same way. It's going to go beyond the exam with real-world information as well that maybe you can't test on directly, but it's important for you to know as an analysis professional. And so the learning materials may go a bit beyond it, but that'll be clear. There'll be notes throughout that say that this is not tested on the exam, but it's good referential information for you to know. Because we want our courses and our study guides to be exceptional, not only in preparing for the exam, but in preparing you for your life as a wireless analysis professional as well. The practice test is going to be very much more focused on what the exam would cover. Not that it's going to have the exact questions on the exam. We don't give those to you, but it gives you the ability to test your knowledge in the different areas that the exam covers and even learn a bit more, because our practice tests always have an explanation for the question. Whereas when you take a real exam, you're not going to get an explanation afterwards for why the right answer was right or the wrong were wrong or something of that sort. But in the practice tests, you do get that information. So right now, because the objectives have been done for a while, we've just released them this week on our website, but they've been done for several months now, and we've been developing products. So we've been developing the exam, the courseware, the e-learning, the study guide. All of this information has been being developed over a period of months, and the majority of it will be available the first couple of weeks of September, and then some later on in September, but all of it before the exam launch date of October 1st. And then, of course, the launch date is the final thing, when the actual exam launches. So products will be available throughout the month of September. The exam will actually launch on October 1st. So let's take a look at this CWAP-403 job description, which came out of the job task analysis in Las Vegas back in March. The Certified Wireless Analysis Professional, or CWAP, is responsible for the capture and analysis of data related to wireless networks, following troubleshooting principles and methodology. This professional has an in-depth understanding of protocols, frame exchanges, and standards at the physical layer and MAC sublayer. This person is proficient in the use of spectrum and protocol analysis tools. Now, I've brought attention to a few keywords. Capture and analysis are the first two. So you need to be able to capture, but you also need to be able to analyze. So, capturing, you can learn how to do that in maybe a half hour or so, right? But analysis, you need to know a lot of information. You need to understand what frames exist and how those frames are used, the different frame exchanges and sequences and so forth. So all of that's needed to actually perform analysis, right? And notice it says of data related to wireless networks. It doesn't necessarily say of protocol captures or frame captures, because sometimes it's spectrum data. It's not frames from the 802.11 capture. And so it's data related to the wireless network. And then, of course, troubleshooting principles and methodology, just making sure that you understand that you need to know what your problem is. You need to make sure that you've understood the potential causes of the problem, and you've gathered the data, and you know how to analyze that data. So you know how to go through the sequence of events that lead to resolution. The professional has an in-depth understanding of protocols, frame exchanges, and standards. So beyond CWNA is a good way to think of that. So you learn some at the CWNA level. At the CWAP level, you've got to know more. And this includes both the PHY and the MAC. The person is proficient. Now, what does proficient mean? Proficient means very capable, right? This is not someone who can use a spectrum and protocol analyzer. It's someone who's proficient in using spectrum and protocol analyzer. So let me give you an example. Someone who can use a spectrum analyzer would be able to fire it up and take a look at the RF energy and, get an idea that there is activity, maybe in a certain frequency range. But they may not have the ability to look at that and recognize a signature, a pattern that tells you, this is a Bluetooth device, this is a video camera, this is a microwave oven, this is that. So someone that's proficient has gotten to that level. And then with protocol analysis, you can't, it's not just that you can capture the frames, but you understand how to look at those frames and notice anomalies, notice things that are not ordinary, like very, very large frames, or frames that are out of sequence or missing frames in a sequence, this kind of thing. So you're able to understand enough about the protocol and how it works that you can recognize problems in a capture file. And not only problems where things aren't working the way they're supposed to as far as frames exchange sequence or something like that, but also recognizing that a feature is enabled on a wireless adapter or device that is not normally enabled, and that device is having a problem, so maybe that feature is the cause of the problem. So you can understand those kinds of things because you're proficient in protocol analysis. Okay, so the job description is in the objectives document, just so you know. Now, there are 6 domains for the CWAP-403 exam. Domain 1 is protocol analysis. Domain 2 is spectrum analysis. Domain 3, PHY layers and technologies. Domain 4, MAC sublayers and functions. Domain 5, wireless LAN medium access. And Domain 6, 802.11 frame exchanges. Now notice the percentages. What this tells you, 15% is domain 1 protocol analysis. And if you think about it, the exam is 60 questions, right? So 15% means 9 questions related to protocol analysis. 15% spectrum analysis, 9 questions related to that. But understand that, for example, we'll get down here to wireless LAN medium access and 802.11 frame exchanges, right? And even MAC sublayers and functions. So these last 3 domains make up 25, 35, and then 60 in the end percent of the exam. If you look at that, that's all layer 2, right? MAC sublayer and functions, wireless LAN medium access, 802.11 frame exchanges. It's almost all layer 2, except for medium access, obviously some clear channel assessment at layer 1 or something like that. But by and large, the last 3 domains are layer 2, which means that you may feel like when you're on that exam that it's more than 9 questions about protocol analysis, because guess what? Those 60%, which is 36 questions on the exam about all your knowledge of layer 2 and how layer 2 works, is going to be about frames and frame exchanges and things like that for the most part. And the end result is there's going to feel like, well, this is protocol analysis, and it kind of is, okay? So in other words, you need to, in the protocol analysis, understand how to use the tools. In the 60% of domain 4, 5, and 6, you're looking at the knowledge base you need to actually use a protocol analyzer and be able to do the analysis, okay? So within domain 1, as you can see here, we have 5 major objectives. Within domain 2, we have 4 major objectives. Within domain 3, we have 5 major objectives. Within domain 4, we have 4 major objectives. Domain 5 only has 2 major objectives. I've gone ahead and put some sub-objectives in here. And domain 6 has 5 major objectives. So with that said, let's take a look at the actual objectives document. So here's the actual objectives document. And you can see right here is that paragraph that is all about the job description. So that job description that I shared with you is available to you here. And so this is the job description that I shared with you. Okay. In addition, you can see the skills measured by this examination are derived from a job task analysis involving wireless networking experts, CWNEs, and professionals. The results of this JTA were used in weighing the subject areas and ensuring that the weighting is representative of the relative importance of the content. So who were these subject matter experts or SMEs? Well, Robert Bartz, Adrian Granados, Brett Hill, Ravi Kiran Gundu, Manon Lissar, Peter McKenzie, and R. David Payne. So these were the ones. I was there giving them guidance along the way, but these other subject matter experts, 7 of them were the ones who actually went through the process of determining what a wireless analysis professional needs to do in their job. What are the knowledge domains that we need to have? What is the percentage breakdown of those knowledge domains? And then out of that, we had a large list of capabilities that they needed to have. In other words, things they can do. We had a large list of tools they needed to know about, and we had a large list of knowledge that they need to have. So from the capabilities, the tools, and the knowledge, we then build learning objectives and exam objectives. And that's what we have in the ensuing pages starting on page 3. So this is where the breakdown is. So I told you there were 5 major objectives in domain 1. And we saw capture 802.11 frames using the appropriate methods and locations and so on. But each of those major objectives are broken into sub-objectives. So when it comes to capturing 802.11 frames, and I'll not read to you all of these because you can certainly read them yourself. But when it comes to capturing 802.11 frames, for example, you need to know how to install monitor mode drivers, select an appropriate capture device and an appropriate location to do the capture for an appropriate amount of time, how to do scanning versus capturing on a single channel, capturing in a roaming scenario and how do I accomplish that, capturing with portable protocol analyzers, capturing with APs, controllers, and other management solutions, and capturing with specialty devices like handheld analyzers that are designed just to capture the information. So you need to know how to do that thing. And notice the language of the objectives: install, select, capture, scanning, capturing, capture. Notice that there is no define, understand, comprehend in this particular list here. And then the next list, notice it's use, configure, view, use, implement, view, use, view. Save to disk, packet slicing, event triggers, buffer options, channels, capture filters, channel scanning. We go on down. We've got, you need to have the ability, the objective here is utilize additional tools. What are you going to utilize? You're going to know how to use wireless LAN scanners and discovery tools, protocol capture visualization and analysis tools, and centralized monitoring, alerting, and forensics tools. Now here's the word define, but notice this is studying methods, troubleshooting methods, defining the problem, determining the scale, identifying probable causes. So you're not defining a concept, you're defining the actual problem, right? And when you go on down, you'll continue to see this action-based language. You need the ability to do protocol analysis. Now we're in spectrum analysis. You need the ability to do spectrum analysis. And then the PHY layers and technologies. Now we're talking about knowledge. So there are some comprehensions. Understand and describe the functions and the PLCP and PMD layers. Apply the understanding of PHY technologies to capture data. Do you catch that subtle difference? It's not just understand PHY technologies, knowing about PHY headers, preambles, training fields, frame aggregation, data rates, etc. No, it's not just knowing the data rates of DSSS and OFDM and HT and so on, but it's applying that to capture data. So a question, for example, may not just say to you, hey, what is the lowest data rate supported in the 5 gigahertz frequency band, regardless of PHY, which of course would be 6 megabits per second, right? So it's not that, but you're looking at a frame capture and you see a whole lot of data frames at 6 megabits per second. What does that tell you? Tells you you've got a lot of clients out at the perimeter. And by the way, I'm not giving you a question on the exam right now. I'm giving you an example of the way you need to be able to use the knowledge. You've got to apply it to capture data in your troubleshooting processes. Okay. Now you can read through these. I'm not going to read all of these objectives to you because my goal is to try to keep the whole presentation here before Q&A down to around 20 to 25 minutes today. But I want you to know this objectives document we're looking at right now is at cwnp.com. Go to certification CWAP, and then you'll see the link there for the CWAP-403 objectives document with a note out from it that the exam is going to be available starting October 1st, but you can go ahead and get the objectives now and begin evaluating and looking at them. So the other thing to note is at the very end of the objectives document, there's a list of exam acronyms. In other words, any of these may be used on the exam without being spelled out. So for example, we may use the acronym of, let's say, DRS, dynamic rate switching, but not spell it out. So for example, on CWS and CWT are very entry-level certifications. We would spell out dynamic rate switching. Okay, so it wouldn't just be an acronym in most cases. But now we're to that level, we shouldn't have to spell out all these acronyms. You've gone through CWNA, you may have gone through CWS and CWT. You may even already have some other professional level certification like CWSP or CWDP. So the point is that at this point, there's no longer a need to spell out common acronyms that are used. You should know those. But this is just helping you out. So make sure you go through this list. And if there's something you don't know, make sure you remember what that acronym actually is. Yes, these are all the crazy acronyms we use. You can see multiple pages of them when we talk about Wi-Fi. And this is one of the reasons CWNA and earlier certifications are hard for a lot of people because there's a long list of acronyms that we deal with in Wi-Fi. And you can probably sense me sighing there, but lots of acronyms. Okay, so you've seen the objectives, you've seen the knowledge domains. If you've looked at the old version of CWAP, I'm sure you've probably noticed some differences in them. The old CWAP objectives are still available at the website too, so certainly you can look at them and you can compare the two. Now let me give you some timelines. I've already alluded to most of this, and I've got a note that's not even related to CWAP in here. I just want to make sure I included to remind everybody. So learning materials begin to be available in September. For example, practice tests will be available for CWAP, CWDP, September the 1st. They'll be there. They can be acquired. The exam itself goes live on October 1st. I should add study guides will be available within the first couple weeks of September. E-learning will be available by the last half of September for CWAP, first half for CWDP. The courseware for training centers to start offering the training courses will be available by the 1st of September. So training centers, if you're on and you are one of our learning partners or an ALC, you can begin offering these classes in September if you wanted to. Of course, we have a CWAP-403 class in October at the conference in San Diego, conferences.cwmp.com. You'll see how you can sign up for that. Peter McKenzie will be teaching that CWAP class. The previous version of the exam retires November 30th, 2018. So there's about a 2-month overlap there. So if you're currently studying and you think, I just want to take the current exam and finish this up, well, you from right now have about 3 months, a little better than 3 months, about 3.5 months. So definitely get on it and you can get that in before that exam expires on November 30th. Also, just again, a note to make sure you remember this, CWTS retires December 31st, 2018. So that certification is going away. CWS and CWT have effectively replaced it. They are two certifications that are intended to be one-day courses if you go to a training class. Some training centers may do 2 days for them, but the goal is to kind of separate the material of CWTS out, make it modern and relevant, so it updated with 11AC information, stuff like that. But where it's more focused on people that don't actually do the work but need to understand it, that's CWS. And then the people that actually need to understand how it works and do some of the work is CWT. Those would be installers, help desk support people, things like that, right? So CWS kind of covers salespeople and also help desk people and marketing people and things like that that need to work with Wi-Fi. And then there's some overlap. The CWT also is good for help desk people, install techs, first level techs, or people that are just starting their Wi-Fi journey and want to know Wi-Fi. The way I simplify it, CWS teaches you the language of Wi-Fi. You know, those crazy acronyms we just looked at, you'll get most of them explained in CWS. CWT teaches you the very basics of installing and configuring Wi-Fi equipment to get it up and running. So the two together effectively replace CWTS. Okay. So I want to say thank you, and then we'll open it for Q&A. But before we do, there is a pre-release special. So if you want to get in on a pre-release special that's going to be offered, if you go to cwnp.link/AP, that's cwnp.link, it's on the screen, cwnp.link/AP. You'll enter your email address, and then our administration staff will send you when this pre-release special is available, the special offer, so that you can actually go ahead, get the learning materials ahead of time at a significant discount. So make sure that you take advantage of that. That's cwnp.link/AP. And it's only good here for the next week or so because it's obviously pre-release. It's before the products start getting released in September. So make sure you get out there and check that out. Now that's the scheduled content that we have for the day, and everything I've said up to now will be archived on CWNP TV on YouTube.